a brief and concise summary at the description. Also, this is something that I mentioned towards the end, but I'm going to say it here also, just in case. Aurora, Axnes, if you're actually watching this by some chance, then I would like to talk. Yeah, Aurora Axnes is someone who has inspired me a great deal. And well, this video has to start off somewhere, so part 1 would be poems. Aurora inspired me to write poems, right? Now let's dial back a little bit. You see, I've always been a writer. Well, not always. I wasn't born a writer, but I've been a writer for some years now. And I've been writing novels and stories. That's been my main venue, my main genre, so to say. And when it comes to writing novels or crafting stories, I often lose myself. And when I say I lose myself, I don't mean I get so absorbed into the work that I forget the time or whatever, which does happen, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about when I say I lose myself is that writing novels and stories is very draining for me, because I don't get to actually express myself in them. In fact, I do quite the opposite, because what I do when it comes to those kinds of novels is I erase every trace of myself in order to craft a character. I am tracing the psychology of a character as far back as I can, destroying my own self in the process, if that makes sense. Or is that just incoherent sophistry? I don't know, but that's what I think is happening, and that's what I feel is happening, and that's what I have observed to be happening. So, where does Aurora come into this? Well, I discovered her late last year, somewhere around December. I'm not going to go into too much detail into that, but regarding me discovering Aurora, I not only got into her songs, which are great. I actually first discovered her through interviews, right? And around the same time, like quite close or quite near, I of course checked out her music and figured out that hey, I really like this, which I will talk about a little bit later. But going back to Aurora's interviews, I quickly developed a respect for her, because of course when I first saw her, no offense, see, she is a public figure, therefore it is in her best interest to lie, and I'm a cynical person. It's not just her, I am very cynical of most people, right? Unless if I'm, I can be a little bit naive if I'm already a fan of someone and I forget to doubt them, but at first I'm definitely cynical, is what I will say. So, I heard her talking. So I heard her speak her mind and talk about stuff, and of course at first, because she's a very fluffy person, right? Like she's quite positive, I would say. And when it comes to those kind of people, I usually assume the worst, which is something that I may need to improve on. But I myself am quite dark. That's why I don't see those, when someone's too positive, I immediately associate that with dishonesty, which obviously isn't always the case. That's why I didn't completely write Aurora off. I was like, okay, she might be being dishonest, or she might be a genuinely good person. You know what? I'll try and discover more, right? So I looked through some of her other interviews, and yeah, I think, in my opinion, that she's actually very intelligent and she's genuine. And even if Aurora wasn't genuine, then I need to meet the mastermind or the writer behind her character, because it's honestly quite very complex and nuanced. That's why I don't think it's an act, because it's very nuanced, right? Like, okay, I don't want this video to be too long, although it's already going to be about 30 minutes in my estimates. But when it comes to Aurora, here's an example of why I think she's being genuine, right? And that has to do, of course, with what I mentioned, nuance. So Aurora has shown great change towards her character, like how she views fans and how she views how she views her fans, how she views touring, how she views recording stuff. Like Aurora has shown to have changed her mind on so many things that so when I see that, you see, this is not even just with celebrities. Like I've seen, and I myself have been guilty of this in the past, although I hope not anymore. Is that people are afraid to change, and when I say afraid to change, I don't just mean in the usual sense that they're afraid to change, which of course that too, but I'm more talking about they're afraid to admit to change, right? Or they craft this image of themselves, and it's not even about whether they're right or wrong. It's about their identity. That's why people this especially goes for celebrity, because there's more at stake for them. But even people who aren't celebrities, like they want to keep their identity consistent, because if they change, then they are not sure how people will react. And they've also crafted this image of themselves already that it might seem weird or strange, which people don't like being labeled as. Generally, not me. I'm very weird. I'm fine with that, and I'm abnormal. But and like I said, I've had experience with this, so I'm not just here tooting my own horn. I've been guilty of this in the past. But as I was saying, people don't like to get labeled as weird or whatever, and if they suddenly change, or even if it's gradual, if other people start to notice, then people view that as a negative, as a detriment to them, because they are now stepping into the unknown. That's why they don't want to admit to change, or they don't want to show change. Whereas Aurora has been very open about that process and how she has changed, and it is very nuanced, and it all makes sense. It all fits, right? Like, yeah, that's why I think she's being genuine, because she has shown change. And like I would assume that people's perception of Aurora was already quite decent, so there wasn't really any reason for her to change her image. And that's why I view her as genuine, because it is a risk. She took that risk, right? Like I do think that people should be more open to admitting when they have changed. But like Aurora didn't just stick to her shy, meek little girl image, basically, that didn't want to be around people. Like, she grew, and she has admitted to that, which is why I do think she's very genuine, and I also do think that she's very intelligent as well. So, going back to my main point, there is a specific Aurora interview that relates to me taking up poetry, right? And this specific Aurora interview, Aurora mentioned how music, or how writing in general, is like her way of putting her thoughts into tiny little boxes so that she can organize them, so it's like an outlet. Now, I myself have a lot of thoughts, probably too much thoughts, going in my head all the time, but I didn't have an outlet for them. So yeah, in hindsight, I didn't handle that in the most intelligent way. But so I had a lot of thoughts, but I didn't put them into tiny little boxes, and I just allowed them to roam free in my mind. Which, I mean, it's not like I don't allow my thoughts to roam free in my mind, but at least I'm not stressed now, because it's regulated, right? It's regulated. I'm not saying that I'm just putting my thoughts into boxes and then never looking back at them. No, I open those boxes at times too, but like before it was just to the point that it was stressful. Now it's much more manageable, I would say. So right, and so what Aurora mentioned about interviews and poetry and writing, she was like, okay, this is my way of putting my thoughts into boxes. This is my outlet, and I didn't have an outlet. And then that's when I realized, oh, why do I not have an outlet? I need an outlet, right? And as I already mentioned, my novels weren't doing that for me, because my novels weren't about me. They were about other characters that I explored, right? I wasn't really exploring myself, even though those characters do have certain elements of myself. Not enough, I would say, or maybe enough, but like just by my style, or by the nature of my writing, it didn't work out. So having been inspired by Aurora, I was like, well, I don't have any musical talent at all, but it didn't stop me from trying. So so that happened. I did write some songs, but I quickly realized that no, this might not be the best idea. And also, when I was writing lyrics, I was like, I was having trouble, just a little bit of trouble. I mean, I can write those lyrics, but like I can't write a full song, if that makes sense. So I thought, you know what? How about I just start with a poem? I'll just write the poem and then turn it into music. Oh wait! I don't have to write music. In fact, I just need to write these poems, right? Like, I was like, I'll just write poems and turn it into music. Wait, no, the poems could be the final goal, right? And then I started writing poetry, and then it was so much fun, and it was much less stressful than writing novels, which, like I say, writing novels is very fun. Crafting stories is very fun, but they are very draining, right? Although I haven't picked that up in like a month or two now, which I definitely need to get back on. I have a great story that I'm writing right now. Anyway, so then I decided to take up poetry, and I was like, and having that outlet has definitely been a positive change in my life, and I have Aurora Axnes to thank for that. So if you're watching, Aurora, thank you. Alright, so let's move on to part 2 and transition. If I decide to put anything here, I don't know. Also, I have not gave any notice to it, but in the background, yes, you can see I am doing a 3D sculpture of Aurora on the video. Okay, which I just decided to do, which is something that I just took up recently, like mid-January, I think. But anyway, enough about that. That's irrelevant to this discussion. Part 2 of how Aurora Axnes has inspired me greatly. That would be to once again wear hats and shades and cry. Okay, so you know what? Let's start off with the crying, because that's where that's where Aurora first inspired me, or touched my heart in this way. So her song "The River," right? So the message of that, apparently, which again I saw this through her interviews, or through the comment section, actually, I think. So, but it was a quote from her interview. Okay, so Aurora mentioned that the song "The River" is about crying, right? And a specific thing that she did say is that men make up like 78% of suicides, and that to her, the reason for that to her is very obvious, because of macho culture, as she calls it, and like men are not allowed to cry. Now, I myself don't like the idea of masculinity or femininity. I just act as I please. However, due to certain circumstances in my past, I grew an adverse reaction to crying, right? Like, I used to cry a lot, and then I was also miserable during those times. So because I was miserable during those times in my those times in my life when it coincided with the time in my life where I also cried a lot, my brain developed a connection between the two. Like, crying is equal to misery and misery is equal to crying, right? But that's not necessarily the case. And another thing that Aurora mentioned is that, she believes that there is a very fine line between happiness and crying, right? And she thinks that they're equally as important. Now, at a certain point, my personality took a 180, which I'm not going to go into detail here and now. But if you want to know about that, then subscribe maybe. I don't know. But anyway, but when I so my personality took a 180 at one point, and during that point, I I I somehow, so I very much demonized what I was, what the kind of person I was, right? So I didn't like the things that I did back then, which isn't just crying, but like, so I developed a connection between my previous habits and being miserable when those things aren't necessarily the same thing, right? And yeah, so just to reverse backwards a bit, again, Aurora mentioned that there is a very fine line between laughing and crying, and that both are very important. Happiness and sadness are very important, and so, and then in contrast, I at one point decided that because I was miserable when I was crying, I wouldn't cry anymore, and that stuck with me for a really long time. I was going to say until now, but just recently I managed one single tear that didn't even reach, like it didn't even drop fully, but it came close enough, like it got out of my eye, right? And that's actually my issue, because it's not like I don't feel emotions, and I don't deny that. However, it's like my tears are always stuck in my eye, like they won't come out unless I literally take my hand and rub my eye with them, or if I chop onions. But that doesn't count. Does this count? I don't know. But anyway, so I decided no, I wouldn't cry anymore, and I also decided during that turning point in my life that I wouldn't wear hats and shades anymore. Now that seems a little bit random. Let me just give a little bit of a backstory here. I was a very insecure child, therefore I wanted to hide away, right? I wanted to hide my face, and I wanted to retreat into my own shell. And what did I do in order to achieve that goal? Well, I wore hats and shades, and there you go. My entire face is not that visible, right? And so when when my personality took a 180 and I wasn't insecure anymore, I was like, it's like I developed an adverse reaction to wearing hats and shades, because I was like, well, I linked that to a really horrible time in my life, right? And now here's the thing. I have recognized this part of my personality and this phenomenon that has happened with me a long time ago. Actually, I almost immediately recognized it because it was so obvious, right? However, when I recognized it like years ago, I just thought to myself, well, like, not crying is actually a good thing, right? Like, yeah, because I mean, if I'm being honest, I have been shamed quite heavily for crying, which now I realize that their points are wrong, and that there is nothing wrong with crying. But and I realized that even years ago, but even then, like, I already, like, there was already a connection in my mind that, like, even if I can rationally say that crying isn't bad, in my mind, I was somewhat celebrating the fact that I didn't cry anymore, right? So I was like, okay, that's not a problem, which it is, and it was, and it still is, but I didn't recognize it as a problem. And also the Hudson Shades, I was like, well, it's a good thing because I'm not hiding away. No, I mean, they're very, very useful things to do, right? And also, this is just a connection that I made because of my crying. No, I mean, so Aurora inspired me not to cry, and then I was like, oh, and I'm also not wearing hats and shades. So you know what? I'll fix all three problems, right? And yeah, and that's and how it happened actually is at first when I was when my personality had just begun to shift, which by the way, my personality is still keeps on shifting very often, but whatever. Or well, not big shifts, but like it's always there's always development, right? It's a slow and steady development of a person that's going on right here. Anyway, so at first I thought, oh hey, I couldn't cry. Well, good for me then. And then I thought I couldn't wear hats and shades. Well, what was the big deal then? It's not that big of a deal. And also crying, it's not that big of a deal, right? But then when I heard Aurora speak about it, I was like, well, I can't cry, and it's for different reasons than what she's suggesting. So, but I mean, because it's for different reasons which aren't as toxic, I was like, is it really a problem? And I was like, it's not really that big of a problem. It's not that big of a deal. But then, if it's not that big of a deal, then why don't you just solve it? Why don't I just solve it? Why don't I just solve it, right? But yeah, I was like, damn, I really should solve it. That was a moment that was an epiphany for me. I was like, yeah, there is a problem and I'm not solving it, and by not solving the problem, I'm only contributing to it. So yeah, I was like, you know what, I'll solve this problem, right? So the hats and shades, easy, done. I already have shades now, and I just wore them today at school indoors because the sun is literally against our eyes during the morning classes, which is like, well, like there's just a window right there and there's no curtain, and I don't know why it's designed like that, but my point stands that hey, it's actually really useful. Hats and shades are very useful. Right now, I don't have a hat because I didn't really have enough money to buy one, because I was going to buy both, but then the sunglasses that I wanted were a little bit more, well, like it took up the budget for my hat. So the hat will have to wait, but I'm pretty much over it by now. Like I can wear hats again, I can wear shades again. That's cool. And by the way, I can tell that it's a purely psychological phenomenon, which I mean everything is a psychological phenomenon because everything is happening in our head. But I can tell that my reluctance to wear hats and shades is a completely psychological phenomenon, because I used to wear them when I was insecure and I was hiding my face basically. And then I chose not to wear them anymore when I became secure with myself, right? And I didn't need to hide my face anymore. But I like wearing masks. I always wear a mask. Well, not literally always, but I have a really scary mask that I love, and it's really fun to wear it. So I am usually wearing that. Especially recently, I'm wearing that a lot because of the coronavirus scare. But anyway, other than that, so I always have that mask on, which hides a lot more of my face than hats and shades ever could. Right? So it's like, well, it's you can tell it's a purely psychological phenomenon. Oh, and by the way, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a licensed psychologist in any way. I'm not studying psychology. I mean, I am studying on my own time, but I'm not taking it in college right now. I'm taking a different course because psychology was kind of dissolved because there weren't enough students. Unfortunate, but whatever. I don't mind. Don't care. Yeah. So, in order to recap part 2, Aurora has inspired me to wear hats and shades again and to cry again, right? And as for the crying, I told myself when I decided that hey, I'll wear hats and shades again, that's a given, but crying I might not be able to, right? And I'm not going to punish myself if I'm not able to. And that's also another thing that I learned from Aurora, because I thought no, actually, when it comes to Aurora, like, she doesn't get that mad at herself. And see, here's the thing. Here's the thing with me, okay? I so I so my personality took a 180, and then since then it has shifted ever so gradually. But whenever I'll recognize a change and I'm like, yeah, I've changed, and you know well, not just when it comes to change. When I recognize that I've made a somewhat of a mistake in the past, I'll be like, oh, that's a stupid motherfucker right there. And if I could go back in time, I'll kill that bitch. And I mean, basically the past me, right? Like, if I didn't disappear, if I kill my past self, I'll kill my past self. If that, like, yeah, I'm very critical of my past self, and I'm like, yeah, of course, I that's why I changed, that's why I improved, because there were problems. But like, I usually feel bad whenever I talk about my past. And that's what I learned from Aurora. It's like she's always like, yeah, there were these things in my past, I changed my mind about them, which is cool. And whereas as for me, I'm like, I'm so stupid, and why did I do that and that and that. And hey, I was wrong, definitely. I made mistakes, but I was just a I was just a child doing my best, trying my damn hardest. And those mistakes, while they were really bad at the time, they were indeed learning experiences. And I recognized that even before, even back then, even before I discovered, or I recognized that they were learning experiences. But even then, it always pissed me off so much to go back to those times and to think about those times, which now I try to be better at, right? I don't want to make myself a little bit sad or angry whenever I think about my past. That's just not that good of a thing to do, right? And also, another thing is, Aurora, when she has a habit that is something that I share with her, is Aurora, I've noticed she will be speaking and then she'd forget what she was going to say. And here's the thing, I do that too. But when I do that, I'm like, what was I? I'm always like, what was I about to say? What was it? Fuck, I forgot. That kind of thing. That's my reaction. However, I was like, I forgot what I wanted to say. Cool. And I'm like, why are you not angry, right? Because for me, whenever that happens, I always get so mad. Because, like, yeah, it pisses me off, right? Like, I lost a potentially brilliant idea by forgetting it, right? And that's something that I really hate, is just thinking of something, having something to say, but then forgetting what it is. And I'm like, why did I forget? Oh my god. Why? And I feel so bad. But then Aura's just so chill about it, which, yeah, right? Like, that's also the thing. I get frustrated at myself sometimes. And look, I love myself to death, right? Well, that's kind of a paradox, because it's myself and it's my death. But you get what I mean, right? But like, even then, I get frustrated on myself at the smallest of things sometimes. and that's why, when Aurora shows me that, hey, you know what, it's some of these things maybe you shouldn't get so frustrated in it, and it's not really that productive. Like, I don't think like, okay, I've remembered some of the things that were at the tip of my tongue, and I was just about to say I remembered some of them, but I don't think I remembered them because I got pissed off. I don't think I did. I don't think that's the case. Right? It's just so irritating, and it's hard not to get irritated, but I'll try to do better. Right? And also when it comes to crying, like I said before, I did manage one single tear. Right? And look, I may not be able to manage more than that, even in the future, but it really made me happy shedding that one tear. And also I shed it to Planet of the Apes, basically, which I was watching. I think it was the dawn of the Planet of the Apes that made me tear up a little. Which, look, it's a great franchise, by the way, especially how they capped it off with the final one. That trilogy is amazing, but that's not the point of this video. I also tend to go on to tangents. Hi there. If you didn't notice. So when it comes to crying, I did decide that I wouldn't punish myself for it, but I would try, and look where my trying got me. I did manage one tear, right? Which made me happy to know that I managed to shed a tear. And look, and yeah, like, when it comes to like entertainment and media, and like those kind of stories, and where it's meant to be sad, and I know I'm sad, and it's really having a profound effect on me deeply emotionally, but I can't even manage to shed a single tear. Like, I do feel that like I'm missing out. That's why I'm really happy when my tears actually cooperate with what I'm feeling and my emotions. Also, I've never experienced crying tears of joy, by the way, but that's a different topic, and I don't know. I mean, I'd like to experience it, but maybe it's just not something that I do. I don't know. Anyway, so part 3 of how Aurora has inspired me. This third part is, okay, transition first. Transition. Okay. Now that I've put whatever transition I want to put here, or if I don't want to put any, then that's fine. The third part would be talking about how Aurora has made me far more sensitive to music, right? And see, here's the thing. All right, I'll tell you the thing. Here's the thing. I'm the type of person, or well, no. Look, when it comes to music, my diet of music, or my consumption of music, has always been as a side dish, as a secondary thing, right? Like, it's not like I didn't like music. Like, everything has music. Every form, not every, but like most forms of entertainment has music, right? And so my main thing when it comes to music has been, for a really long time, a side dish. Right now, what do I mean? I'll give you an example. So when it comes to like music, let's say anime, right? Let's say anime. I'm watching an anime. There's this track that always keeps playing on that anime, which is a good track. It's a great musical piece. I do recognize that, but because of the events of the anime, that's why I get attached to the music, right? I don't get attached to the actual music, and I rarely, if at all, ever seek out just pure music, right? I think I tried to get into Sabaton at one point, but I didn't really stick with them, although they are a great band. I do recognize that, but other than that, I also really like Get Jinx, which is this music video of a character from a video game, League of Legends. Maybe you know of it. It's this music video of this character Jinx, but even then, it's kind of still a secondary thing, is it not?
yeah, I mean, I'm watching it mainly for the character, and I think the music perfectly encapsulates that character, right? Or so Aurora was the first musician that I stuck with, that I'm I actually listened to for her actual music, like as a whole, as a primary thing instead of a secondary thing, if that makes sense. I think that makes sense, right? Right. So it's not just a side dish or a side quest to, like a video game. It's not just background music for that, or it's not just the opening to an anime. It's like it's the music itself that I am attached to, and that's how Aurora has inspired me in another way, or at least like opened a whole nother avenue to entertainment and, well, just life in general, for me, right? Is that she showed me that, hey, music by itself can be great too. And yeah, I would definitely classify her as my favorite musician. Now some of you may say, oh, but you haven't listened to other musicians, and and so that's not really saying much, but which, yeah, okay, maybe, but in another sense, it's not like I've never heard any music. I'll hear it in passing, or sometimes I will listen to it, like if someone gets really famous, or if I see a really good interview of someone, which, by the way, I quite like interviews. And like there have been, yeah, like there are musicians that I've seen sometimes in interviews, and then they'll speak of something, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, okay, I'll check it out. Or my friends will sometimes gush over a musician, which I'll be like, okay, I'll check them out. But like, yeah, I've never stuck with anyone else, even though I can recognize that, like, yeah, they're doing good work, right? But I never stuck with them the same way I did with Aurora, right? And I never, like, music wasn't a primary part of my day ever, right? Like, it was always, again, I'll hear it everywhere because I like films, I like videos, I like YouTube videos, I like anime. So I will hear music at some point of the day. I like games, which games also have music. So yeah, I will hear music at some point of the day, but I never sought it out. Aurora made me seek music out, and it made me seek her music out in particular, right? And it's, yeah, it was just amazing. Like, I would find myself actually looking for her music, seeking her music out, and I would listen to it, and I would like, oh, that's great, that's great. Although I've slowed down, but even then, the fact that, and by slowed down, I mean I still kind of, yeah, I think I still, yeah, I still listen to her every day. I don't think, yeah, yeah, definitely still every day, right? I still listen to her every day. It's just not as much as when I first discovered her, which, yeah, of course I listened to her much more back then. I mean, most of her tracks I haven't listened to yet, so back then, not right now, but back then. So I was like, yeah, I was just discovering her, right? And also, another personality trait of mine, I won't get too deep into this, but like, when it comes to games or shows, well, not shows, perhaps shows I can keep coming back to, especially if they come out on a weekly basis. But like, when it comes to games and other stuff, other singular stuff, right? Like, I won't get sick of games in general, but I can get sick of a game. And usually, like, the longest I can stick with something, well, okay, online games, I think I can stick with for a little bit less than a year, right? Like, I can't even reach the year mark. And but even then, like, my my drive, or my commitment to the game wanes really quickly, and usually, and I don't think online games is that great of a measurement for this, because I will quit. And again, I have quit them all eventually. Like, I don't think I've played an online game for even 2 years. For even a year, actually. Yeah, not even a year, right? I think there were some games in my childhood that I may have played much more, just because, well, I didn't really have much of a choice. I know, it's either that or I stare at the fucking wall. So yeah, there are some games that I did play a bit more in my childhood, but now that I have more choices, it's like, yeah, the most I would do is like a month for a single player game, or I'll play an online game with my interest dwindling quite fast, right? And that's the thing. But with Aurora, it's like she outlasted though her music has, for me, outlasted games, right? Like, I would play a game that I really get into, I'd play for a month, right? And I'd get really into it and I'd get really immersed. But with Aurora, I was really, really immersed for like a month, and then even after for a month, perhaps more, and even after, I still love her music and I still come back every single day. So it's like, yeah, like that's something that's really never happened to me before, right? And that's the thing. Like, Aurora has given me a new appreciation of music, and now I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, no, actually, I do think that Aurora has made me far more sensitive to music, right? Because after I discovered Aurora, I've also, like, when I'll hear music, and particularly good music, obviously, I'll also be much more, like, I'll feel a wider array of emotions listening to them, right? As a side dish, perhaps. Like, well, I mean, that happened before, but even by themselves, or if I'll just hear them in passing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good tune, right? Whereas before, I'll just interpret, yeah, it's kind of a good tune, okay, cool, whatever. But now I'm like, yeah, that's good, right? Like, yeah, I'm much more sensitive now to music ever since I discovered Aurora. Right now, I don't know if Aurora necessarily caused that, or if I became more sensitive to music and then I discovered Aurora. But actually, I doubt that, because when I first heard Aurora's music, I was like, yeah, alright, that's cool, I guess. But as I listened more, I just became more and more sensitive to it, I think. And the more I loved it, and the more I fell in love with the artistry, and I was like, yeah, this is really good. And yeah, and until it reached a point that my watch later, for 79 whole entries, I think, or 89 whole, I don't know the exact number, but a whole lot of my watch later was just filled with videos of Aurora, her singing, her interviews, my so yeah. And yeah, I know this because I joked about it with my friends, and they're like, you're obsessed with her. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, no, I'm not, while showing them what's in my watch later, and what was in my history. Because like, yeah, when I first discovered her, like, I was consuming a lot of her content. Right now, it's slowed down, but I am still steadily consuming more and more of Aurora's content. Or, well, more and more, I mean, it's kind of the same songs. I mean, she's not releasing a new song on a daily basis, and I don't really want her to, because, well, first of all, she's going to overwork herself and stress herself out. But really, I don't think the quality would be up to par if she like release a new song every single fucking day. Like, yeah, alright, like, these things take time, right? And that's something that I learned from watching anime. Like, One Piece releases a new episode every single fucking week, almost every single week. But it's like, it's like the quality is much lesser than, say, for example, Boku no Hero Academia, which releases its episodes, its seasons, and yeah, they actually get time to work on it, right? Like I want Aurora to also, of course, have, like, I want her to keep up the quality, and even if she doesn't keep up the quality, like, the quantity is nice too, but the quality is of utmost importance, right? And also, I think I heard her say something about spending a month on, like, a song, or maybe a year on a song, on an interview. Like, that's how much time she wants to spend, and I want to see that happen. What would it be like if Aurora spent, like, that amount of time on a song, right? I want to see what the results would be. Anyway, I think that will have to do it for this video. And thank you for watching. If you actually made it up to here, up till the end, if by any chance Aurora Axenes, the actual person, the singer, the musician, is watching this, like, if by some if by some chance he's actually watching this, then let me address you a little bit here. Aurora, thank you a lot. You have been a very positive influence in my life, and now this is a little bit of a selfish request, which of course obviously you don't have to, right? But I personally find you to be a very interesting and fascinating character, right? And which is why if you're here listening or watching this, then yeah, I would like to have a conversation with you, like, I don't know, like, okay, I have you followed on Twitter, obviously, Instagram, they are linked in the description, which everyone else, go follow me there, if you so desire. Instagram, I post some of my edits, although I haven't been consistent. Twitter, I post my videos here, and also, of course, my YouTube channel. Subscribe here. But yeah, for Aurora, if you, the actual you Aurora Axis is watching this, then yeah, I would love a conversation. And as I find you to be a very fascinating character, then yeah, I would really like to talk to you, right? So yeah, since I do have you followed on, well, not every platform, right? I'm not on TikTok, which I know you are on, which I am actually considering taking it up now, because Aurora is on TikTok, you are on TikTok. This is supposed to be meant addressed to Aurora or whatever. Yeah, right. But I don't know, that doesn't seem like a platform for me, but yeah. But from what I've seen of what you've shared on Twitter, of your post on TikTok, like Aurora, then I'm like, oh, like, this would be nice to see on my feed, but I don't know about an entire about downloading an entire app for that. I'm not sure. Maybe though, maybe, and you're the only one that has made me even consider it. So yeah, I think that's, yeah. Anyway, so again, I do think that you're an amazing person, and yeah. So if you are watching this, then like, maybe have a conversation with me if you would entertain a request from myself, right? And yeah, I think that's I just don't know how to end this video. Guys, thanks for watching. Aurora, if you actually found yourself here for some reason, and you actually watch till the end, then thank you. Thanks. It would be real nice if you can somehow tell me that you did see it at the very least, even if you're and yeah, and have a conversation with me while you're at it, because why not, right? Yeah. So and yeah, when I say I want a conversation, yeah, I do want to be friends with you, because I do think that you are. I do find you to be a really interesting person, as I said, and yeah. right? Which did, I don't know. There is just a lot of yeah. That, I don't know where am I going with this. So yeah, Aurora, again, if you're watching this, which who am I kidding? Why am I even addressing you? Why would you be? Why would you find yourself here? You're too busy with other stuff, and that's great because you're making more music for us to enjoy. But you know, and this video is actually too long. Like what, 50 minutes? It's almost 50 minutes. I'll end this. I'll end this at the 50-minute mark. Okay, so. Final closing statements. Fuck! 20 seconds, 20 seconds. Alright, if you're watching this, please do reach out to me. Like, I mean, I will reach out to you. Why am I saying you reach out to me? I mean, I will reach out to you. I mean, just, please reach back out to me. Yeah, I actually haven't messaged you in this. I think I've messaged you in my other out on Instagram, but yeah, in Twitter, I can't actually reach out to you because Twitter doesn't allow messages from people follow whatever. I'm actually new to Twitter also, but yeah, that's about the end of this video. Everyone, thank you for watching, or especially if you made it till the end. If Aurora is actually watching this by some chance, then thank you a lot for watching this till the end. Please let me know somehow that you saw it, because I'll be really happy if I knew that you actually heard what I had to say, and how you inspired me, and all that stuff. And also, oh yeah, this is something that I forgot. I actually ditched my script for this video, and just to close things off, after I have thanked Aurora and all that stuff, and I have thanked all of you, I discovered Aurora through YouTube, and now I know that YouTube has a lot of faults, and I will criticize YouTube for a lot, but its recommendations have served me really well, not just for Aurora but also for Aurora. So YouTube, you know what, get your shit together elsewhere, but your recommendeds are great, right? And yeah, I don't know, just sending some love a little bit, because it's this video shouldn't go up at around Valentines. So happy Valentines, guys. Happy Valentines, Aurora, if you're watching. Yeah, and YouTube, right? YouTube isn't perfect, but it does do some great things, and I discovered Aurora through YouTube, through its recommended, through its algorithm, which for all of its problems, for allowing me to discover Aurora, for that I thank you, YouTube. And thank you all for watching, and thank you, Aurora, for being an amazing artist, and I would assume a person from what I have seen of you, right? So and that's it. I will end this video now. Thank you, guys. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Aurora. Goodbye. See you later.